Hey, Warpugs. Because it's storming today outside, and I really don't like it when it rains while I'm recording any kind of anything that I'm checking out that you guys request. I don't like there to be a lot of background noise. So it's been thundering, it's been raining. So I decided to go ahead and do something today that I've been talking about doing for a while now. I'm going to give you guys a list of my top 10 favorite SCPs that you guys have recommended to me thus far. And I was actually surprised when I put together this list because the main thing that really hit me was there's the Factory and 610 and the Scarlet King, but they were not on my list of top 10 SCPs. It actually surprised when I started putting together this list. I was looking back over every single file I've read through, every single video that has been put out that I've checked out, and it actually surprised me which ones wound up being on this list. So I think I'm going to start off with number 10. And surprisingly enough, number 10 is A Hero Is Born.
Upon opening SCP-1230, all its pages were soaking wet, with the same message on every page. I'm so sorry. I never intended for this to happen.
Oh.
I just wanted to make people happy.
SCP-1230 is a book, and when you look at this book, there's only some dialogue on it. It says a hero was born, and when you go to sleep that night, you have a dream, and it's just anything that you can imagine, anything that you could put together in your head as far as your dreams. It basically tells you a story where you're the protagonist, and the better your imagination, the more vivid and the better the dream. And for me, this one was strikingly wholesome, and especially with what happened to one of the researchers that was actually assigned to the project, and how the actual entity itself that lived within the pages reacted them to sending D-Class in there, who were they were being forced to do D-Class things. Let's just say it like that. But the biggest thing for me was how the entity in the book felt after the one researcher basically took his own life because he didn't want to return to his regular life after living hundreds of years inside the dream. And I personally loved this SCP. I first learned of it through the Vulcan. I can't remember who requested that video, but I really do appreciate it because it has been one of those SCPs I've thought about. It would be a wonderful, wonderful world if we could all get something like that, and we could use moderation with it. Moving on to number 9.
Why? They sent the flying things, signals. I can't recall the names. But as it hit the black barrier, they simply disappeared. We're going away too. Everything I know is fading. I look at the world, and half of the words I use for things have been blocked out by my memory.
Alright, SCP-3426 is the Reckoner, and once again, the Vulcan is the one that introduced me to this one. Now, something you guys don't know about me, I really, really am into extraterrestrials. Except the Tau, of course. One of these days I'm actually going to tell the story of that, but yeah, you guys got the wrong idea about my hatred for the Tau, but this, one of the biggest questions as far as extraterrestrials has always been is, if they're out there, well, where are they? The Fermi paradox is just, it's a simple math problem, but if they were out there, we would have heard from them by now. That's what most scientists are saying, everything like that. And there's a lot of really frightening concepts when it comes to what could actually be the reason we're not aware of other civilizations other than our own. And my favorite one so far is the Hunter in the Dark Forest. And if you don't know what that is, I suggest you look it up. It is actually terrifying to consider the reason we haven't heard from any other civilizations. But this particular one, in and of itself, talks about what happens were humanity ever become a Type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Now, this would be to the point where we could harness all the power of the planet. Now, the Reckoner, this was a terrifying SCP for me to listen to and contemplate. The fate of any civilization that had reached Type 1 status has been wiped out by some form of anomaly that only comes and just deletes their consciousness, deletes all evidence that they were ever there, their culture, their ideas, everything about them is just gone. Everything about them is just simply erased. That is a terrifying, and I mean terrifying thing to contemplate when you boil it down. And the fact that they don't know anything about it, much less how to counter it. And the Foundation now has to actively sabotage humanity's development so it doesn't fall victim to the same thing that has struck down so many other civilizations. The Reckoner is definitely my number 9 on this list. Just because of the sheer way it was presented and the answer to an actual question that many people have had. Where are all the aliens?
One step higher is the Euclid object class, signifying the broadest...
This is another famous SCP called... Hold on a second, let me see if I can remember the name.
It looks like a plague doctor. Okay, so number 8 is the Doctor, 049. And simply put, because I've seen so much stuff with the Vulcan in it, if I didn't include him into this, if I didn't include the Vulcan's personal character in this list, I fully believe I'd become an instance of 0491. You know, I would wind up being one of those zombie-like things just wandering around. It hits on a couple of different things. One, it's a meme, flat out. The Plague Doctor dancing a gangster's paradise has been one of my favorite memes of all time. But, at the same time, what's even better than that is the sheer fact that this thing is so dedicated. Now, I haven't seen the update yet. Eventually I will. But its dedication to ridding us of the pestilence. But nobody really has an idea of what the pestilence is. I've heard a couple of interesting theories, free thought being one of them. But it would be interesting to see if the Doctor ever revealed what the pestilence itself was. I think one of my favorite instances where the Doctor appears in media was most definitely in the When Day Breaks series, done by Mr. Illustrated with Dr. Seminarian, and the Doctor's eventual fate in that. Kind of freaky, but you know what? Eventually you just gotta say he had it coming.
To shed. SCP-2845 is covered.
Okay, this is the Messiah. That's what this thing is. This is the Messiah, okay? That's what this thing is. Oh, good God.
This one, actually, when I turned off the camera and sat there during the editing process, you know, sometimes I don't really unpack everything once, when I'm in the middle of, you know, watching something, because there's a lot of stuff to unpack with SCP. But SCP-2845 bothered me for hours after it bothered me for hours. This is the deer. Now, I love how this file was presented. I love how it was presented. And it was presented from containment to the rituals they have to use to keep it in place, plus the fact that the rituals actually have no real significance other than the fact that the deer believes that it does. And you have musical selections, you have dinners, you have a play, and you have a sacrifice. And oh my God, that poor D-Class. How many and this has to happen every day. So, oh my God, it's just absolutely monstrous. The things, including, Montauk and everything like that. This is one of those SCPs where you find out how far they're willing to go to preserve humanity. Just how absolutely awful they're willing to be to preserve humanity. Now, I don't agree with the Foundation's practices in a lot of ways. Especially more recently, with the more I've learned. You guys have been telling me I've been getting more and more jaded towards the Foundation in the ways they act, especially with the SRAs, Scranton reality anchors, things like that. The USS Somerset was a great push forward to that, but the Deer shows just how far they will go. In addition to the Montauk procedure, which is a whole lot of hell no.
Is more likely to appear if an individual lives alone, is non-religious, is impoverished or homeless, displays a history of mental illness, is a military veteran, has no criminal record, or has never been convicted of a violent crime, has no currently surviving family, is unmarried or otherwise lacks a significant other, has little to no social standing in the community, does not exhibit any record of significant professional or personal accomplishments, has few to no mutually beneficial interpersonal relationships, or exhibits qualities and life history that have rendered the individual nondescript, anonymous, neglected, or otherwise unremarkable or insignificant by the standards of their respective society.
This SCP is probably one of the, this is as wholesome, if not more so, than 999. $49.99. Someone to watch over us. I told you a lot of my top 10 are on the more wholesome variety, and I can't think of something more wholesome than this. If you have not seen anything about 4999, SCP-4999, this SCP in particular, it basically shows up to the unwanted of society, the people that don't have anything, that have no one. And it shows up to give them a last comforting moment with what appears to be another person. The relationship between the two is never seems to be known, but the person who is dying knows who this is. And 4999 shows up to where people who have no one are dying, and it spends their last moments with them. It doesn't hurt anybody. And the Foundation, even though they attempted to contain it, failed. Thankfully, I would have been really pissed off if they had actually managed to contain this entity. But for me, it was one of the best, flat out best SCPs that I've ever had the pleasure of learning about. And once again, I think it was so wholesome for me that it stuck with me for a very long time. In fact, there were 3 SCPs that popped into my head as soon as I sat down and got ready to make this video, to put together my list, everything like that. And 4999 was one of the first ones that popped in my head, just because of the impact it had on me. And it's always great when you have something with that kind of emotional resonance. And all I can do is thank the author and thank whoever recommended it to me. And once again, this was another one that was first introduced to me by the Vulcan.
Update. SCP-5031 has said its first word. Salt. We are all immensely proud.
Are you kidding me?
29/11/2019.
Okay. Speaking of the Vulcan again, SCP-5031. Not another murder. Yet another murder. How is it? How is it? I'm trying to remember how it was pronounced. Yet another murder monster. Now this one, the description of it, what it did, how it operated, everything in the opening parts of this file had me sitting there going, this thing is going to just, like, this is exactly what the file name says, yet another murder monster. And then it got put in the hands of a doctor, and I swear I have never heard rotisserie chicken so many times in any media, period. Not even in commercials have I heard rotisserie chicken so many times. This thing thought rotisserie chicken was the best thing ever. And then it learned. And because somebody actually cared enough to sit there and take a look at this thing and realize this might not be all it can be, it learned and it grew and eventually became the Gordon Ramsay without the blonde mop and the anger issues of the SCP Foundation. I would love to have a meal prepped for me by this SCP. And that's a hands down statement. The way this was handled, the way the entire storyline was done, was absolute masterwork. The writer did a phenomenal job of painting first a picture of just absolutely what is this thing? How did it, has it ever gotten out? Has it ever killed anybody? What has it done? And then you realize the only reason the thing was acting like this was because it was hungry. It's perfect.
Occasionally we get a visitor from one of the nearby towns, usually checkouts or aisle 630. We check in with each other from time to time, occasionally trade supplies if someone gets particularly low on something. It's comforting, in a way. A reminder that we aren't alone here.
Those of you who have spoken with me personally knew that this one was going to be on the list. 3008, The Infinite Ikea. What kind of joke is that? That is such an absolute joke that turned into literally one of the best SCPs I've ever seen. The Infinite Ikea is an infinite Ikea filled with people dressed like Ikea workers who are not really people, who are more like flesh objects. And after you spend 3 days going by the desert of chairs, you can wind up being in the food court, where all things are plentiful in bounty, and nacho cheese flows in rivers and milk and honey, as long as you have your credit card up to date. Guys, it was one of the best SCPs I've learned about. If you don't know about the Infinite Ikea, I recommend it 20 times over for you guys to go check it out, because the Infinite Ikea is literally one of the best things I've ever seen. Once again, another great instance of this was in the When Daybreak series by Mr. Illustrated, where the flesh, and if you don't know about When Day Breaks, I recommend you watch that series by Mr. Illustrated because it's awesome. I found out the other day that he's released another part of When Day Breaks. I can't wait to see that. But the flesh invades the Ikea, and the workers defend the Ikea. The reason I like it so much is not so much because of the idea, it's the execution. I love the way that this thing's put forward. How at first it's an annoyance, and then it's a joke, and then it gets kind of serious, and then it gets far more serious until the point where you can only sit there and embrace the horror. You're trapped in Ikea. And God, I love that SCP.
I'm living in a virtual hell because I can't die. I'm gonna step outside this room and take a guard's gun. And I'm gonna shoot myself with that gun and nothing.
Okay. So this one in particular hurt my feelings a lot. 1501 Joe Schmo. To talk about this one, just the sheer desperation of this person and all the horror this person must have to go through. because there's nothing worse than never being noticed. This SCP really dug hard at the core of who I am, because we all want to be noticed by someone, even in times where we don't really want to be noticed at all. If everyone just stopped noticing us, it would be devastating. This poor guy has lived with this. He has dealt with this for a long time, and he can't even though he is depressed and miserable, he hates himself, he hates what he is, he could get away with anything. He could get away with anything. He doesn't take advantage of it. And he actually feels bad when he loses control, which I can't say I blame him for losing control at all, because that existence would drive you insane. It would literally drive you insane to just walk down a street and no one notices you at any point. That would be beyond psychological torture. It would go to a level that's just far surpasses it. You know what? I need to talk about something else more wholesome.
And what's more, SCP-999 also appears to have an innate sense for those who need its help most, with a particular affection for the hurt and the unhappy. The creature appears to be a true...
It's a happy Jello mold! You knew the boy was gonna be in here. You knew the boy was gonna be in here if you've been around this channel for more than 5 seconds. This is the Tickle Monster. SCP-999. He is the good boy. He is the happy boy. He makes everybody else happy too. He is a little, well, this one's a plushie, but he still makes me happy. He sits right over here on my desk, and anytime I'm feeling kind of gloomy, I look over at him, and he's just really, like, how is it possible something like this can make you happy? Like, this happy? Like, seriously, look at his little face. Look at it. Look at it. Can you tell me this doesn't make you happy? Can you? Really? You can't, can you? No. So, this little guy is basically a gelatinous mass, and it's called the Tickle Monster. And basically, it has free roam wherever it wants to go because there's no danger from it. What's scary is, this is the Scarlet King's kid. Which, if you know anything about the Scarlet King's kid, oh god, his other kids were horrible. But this one, he's just a happy little clam, ain't he? He's just happy as he can be. He is the good boy, and he sits over here, watching over me every day. Guys, SCP-999, if you watch him and you like don't feel your mood improve instantaneously, you need SCP-999 in your life more than anybody.
Can you hear them? Can you hear them? The water. You do not recognize the bodies in the water. You do not recognize the bodies in the water. You do not recognize the bodies in the water. You do not recognize the bodies in the water. Can you hear them?
You bastard! Oh, that's fucked up!
Description.
Jesus! Jesus!
Oh my god. The first time that an SCP ever freaked me out so bad that I didn't know quite what to do with myself, it was 2316. 2316, I experienced from the Vulcan first. And it was, I screwed up. I have a studio light right over there. And because the thumbnail was in red, I was like, I'm just going to make the whole thing in red. I'm going to bathe this place in red light. And, it's going to be great. Everything, it's going to be perfect. You know, I'll do the whole thing up. It'll be great. And then all of a sudden, it starts getting creepy. It gets worse and worse and worse. And it just got to the point where I was getting... The red lights were a bad idea, okay? The red lights were a bad idea. And I quite literally was sitting there near the end of it going, oh, like just freaked out so completely that I didn't know quite what to do with myself. I have yet to see anything else on the Class of 76 which involves 2316. But I really do want to. I don't get as much time as I wish I did to check out some things, and that's just the nature of the beast. But at the same time, if you have not seen the Volgan's video on 2316 and you want to freak yourself out, I recommend you watch it with all the lights off. All that being said, guys, I do not recognize the bodies in the water ever, under any circumstance. That was my top 10. I have been telling you guys I've been wanting to do a one like this for a while, and, well, the storm's over. Gonna check something out, and it's actually Sunday when I'm recording this. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to put this out. And, yeah. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Send me more SCP, and I'll see you guys next time. I never will recognize the bodies in the water.